Welcome to Not Another Business Podcast. I'm your host, Zachary. And today we have Jean Hermy joining us live. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing well, man. Just enjoying this beautiful day. How you doing, Usai?
I'm doing well, thank you. And thank you for joining me. I appreciate that. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. And I'm looking forward to this. I know we can definitely have a great episode. I'm sure you have a lot of great stories, a lot of great motivation you want to give us. So are you ready?
I am. Let's go.
All right. So let's jump right into it. Let's start with the introduction. Why don't you tell us who you are, where you're from, what you do?
Perfect. So my name is Jean Hermy Beauciquot. I was born and raised in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Moved here when I was around 16 years old. Went to, I went to Everett High, finished high school 1 year, my senior year, then went to UMass Boston for my bachelor's, and then now I'm in a whole totally different field. I do e-commerce where I launch and scale online businesses.
Okay. All right. That's dope. So what year did you come here from here at 16? What year was that?
2014, August 2014.
Okay. Yeah, I came here around the same age. It was like 16, and then I think a month later I turned 17.
Yes, I turned 17 in September.
Okay. All right. And so you said you went to UMass, and then now you're doing e-commerce. So walk us through that process. Tell us how that turned in, from going to school. What did you want to be when you went to UMass? What did you want to learn at that point?
To be quite honest with you, I just needed to be out the house around that time because, as you know, us being Haitians, there's no way our parents would just see us like walking around the house, not doing anything. It's either you're working or you're in school. I personally did not want to go to school. I didn't really believe that school was the way out, but eventually I still did. But I took one of the safest options you could, which was eventually accounting, which I still use in my day to day. But eventually, I just wanted to start my own business. But then I didn't know what to do at the time yet. So I used the time while I was in school to kind of like figure out what I really wanted to do. And it wasn't until like my senior year that I found out about ecom. And I was like, okay, this is it. It clicks. It makes sense. I'm going to go all in.
And how is it that you found out about it?
Honestly, it was kind of like luck, as it was through a friend of mine that actually became one of my closest friends now. So we actually was just hanging out, and I think it was around like Thanksgiving or Black Friday, something like that. And we were just hanging out, and then he brought another friend of his who I'm still friends with, and I just saw him in like a nice Mercedes Benz. It's completely shiny object syndrome. Like I saw him in a nice Benz, and around the time I'm like, this kid is like 20, 21. How can he afford this? Like at the time, I had a serving job where like I was making enough to afford one. I just wouldn't be able to eat for the month,
Right.
But I saw it. I was like, what does this kid do? And I started asking questions. And he goes, oh, I own a digital marketing agency. But when I started to learn all those skills, I started with ecom. And then I asked him, how does ecom work? He goes, well, the style of ecom I do is drop shipping, where you don't even have to hold the inventory. All you have to do is put the product on your website, design a nice product page for it, run ads for it, and then people will buy. And I'm like, yo, I can do this. Not thinking how much harder it would get later on, but that's kind of like all that sparked it. The very next day, open a Shopify account. It was trash, I'm not gonna lie, but I took action the very next day. That's essentially how it started.
Okay. What was that transition like? Because I know Haitian parents, they did you ever tell them like, hey, by the way, I'm not gonna follow this path. I'm just gonna go back and just do this drop shipping thing. Did you ever tell them that?
Yes, but there's this word for it in Creole. I slowly kind of like introduced that idea to them that I was not going to use my degree. It wasn't all at once. I slowly started doing things like oh, I just did 10 sales in a day. Look, right?
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
like make it more, um, like make it more like, noticeable to them. And eventually, after a while, when the business really took off, like I really didn't even care what they said at that point. I was just like very stern. I'm not doing it. But on the bright side, my dad was a business owner back when he was in Haiti,
Mm-hmm.
so it was just very easy for him to support me with my decision because he truly believes like ownership is the real way out.
Mm. That's interesting because a lot of times, unfortunately for us Haitians, our parents, even though they're running their businesses, they have these shops and whatever it is that they do on the side, they always try their hardest to keep us away from doing such a thing. That's why they always invest so much money in, education, go to school, go become a lawyer, go become a doctor, and then just to do what? Go work for for someone, and not even if at least they were like, go become a doctor so you can open your own, practice and do all these things on your own and be your own person. No, they don't even do that. They just tell you, go become a lawyer so you can, do these big things and go find a firm so you can work at. So it's great that your dad was like, you know what? Hey, I'm glad you're able to do this and I believe in it. It's not a
Oh,
lot of parents like that out there, especially not
oh yeah,
Haitians.
and I could add to this too. A lot of them don't realize hospitals are not non-profit like
Mm-hmm.
places. They're for profit businesses.
Yeah.
They're owned by business owners, by shareholders, and all stuff like that. Eventually, the real people that work, like you think a doctor's making that much. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what about whoever's paying a doctor? How much more are they making? So that's kind of like how my thought process has always been. I'd rather, like, I don't need to be able to do open heart surgery. I need to
Mm-hmm.
be able to have a place where I can afford people that know how to perform open heart surgeries. And that's always been my mindset since I was very young. That all due credits to God and my dad. My dad's has a big role to play in that. Ever since a kid, no vacations. Like
Yeah.
legit, there was so many things to do back then in Haiti. Like I could have been somewhere in some random street playing soccer barefooted. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
was like, nope. Like I was always at his companies, just like learning the game, and eventually, just wanted to be like daddy. Eventually, just that's I think that's kind of like where the business side came from.
Okay. Okay. Because yeah, I was gonna say, at that point, did you ever feel like he was trying to steer you in that direction, or did you kind of realize that down the line, where you're like, you know what, he was definitely trying.
It wasn't until like I'd say like 2 years ago that I actually like thought about it. I was like, wow, like this dude, everything he's done since the start was to make sure I'm in a position to, be successful in life. As a
Mm-hmm.
kid, not being able to, enjoy your summers, you literally feel like the world is ending. All your friends are like, oh, I was playing basketball, I was playing soccer, oh, I did this, I did that. And then you're here in like a magazine, right? You're at a
Yeah.
shop just like working and helping. And you're like, oh my goodness. But then
Mm-hmm.
now all those skills that I've learned just so many skills. I've learned how to talk to people. I've learned how to manage staff. I'm talking about, I was 11, 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was so much more advanced at that time, and
And
I
of
didn't
course, to
even
learn how to
know.
negotiate,
And then I
negotiate prices.
negotiate. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
brutal negotiator, like because of my dad. But at the time, I was like, yo, like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Can I please, think about it. It's, you go to school and you have to wake up at like 6:30 a.m. every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about summertime when you finally would get to sleep and you still wake up at the same time. There's no TV, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like constant grind. But it did put me ahead. And it did make me see life from a different perspective where I was able to mature a lot faster. My sisters were in La La Land. They didn't know how anything was running. They were just
Right.
vibing. But me, I knew the ins and outs. And, I'm very grateful for that.
Okay. And what was that? So in 2014, you came here. Um,
Hmm.
in your mind, did you kind of feel like, oh, thank God, this is over with now? And did your father come here too with you, or was it just you?
No, it's all of us. We all moved
Okay.
because we eventually had to, shut down the business. It was getting way too dangerous. And
Mm,
looking back at it now, at how the country's looking, we would have been
mm,
all dead by now. Like
unfortunately, yeah.
guaranteed, we probably would have been all dead. So when I moved here, I actually didn't even think that way because I was supposed to come here either way as an international student.
Hmm.
I actually was not really too happy the way I came because I was like, wow, like we have to start from scratch now.
Yeah, yeah.
I will not come to this podcast and be a hypocrite. I was not struggling in Haiti. Thank God. I was. My dad was struggling in his early years, but he made
Hmm.
sure for us to never have gone through that. And I think that's one of the main reasons why he was so hard on me, just
Hmm.
because he wanted to make sure that if anything were to happen to him, like we would be good because his father passed at a very early age. So he
Hmm.
had to become a man at like 12. So to him, he always had that mentality. Like, I can't let my son be like a victim of his environment. I want him to have control over everything that's happening, and the stuff that's out of his control is whatever. So essentially, just coming here and seeing like leaving everything behind and then coming
Hmm.
here, I'm just like, yeah, like we might have to start from scratch. Seeing my mom, like crying, like not knowing the language. She's like, it's so cold here. I don't know how to speak the language. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Um, things like that gave me a quick reality check. Like, oh, it's not gonna be as sweet as I thought it would be.
Okay. Um, yeah, it's a lot of, so it's like two parts of it. There are a lot of people out here, especially Black Americans or white folks. They hate to hear us say things like, I had a great life back in Haiti, or I had an okay life in Haiti, and it's like, well, why did you go back? It's like, no, that's not the point. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm here. I had to come here. It wasn't safe or whatever. I'm dealing with whatever cards that were dealt with, to me. And then there's another side of it that's like, we we come here, and this is what this podcast is about, is because I want to highlight, especially us Haitians, I want to highlight our upcoming upbringing, our stories, because I want to hear how we were able to maneuver the changes in our lives, right? Because the number one thing that I realized, and when it came to like going to therapy and stuff like that, is the major trauma that we all went through. Because you left home, you come here, that's like a trauma, like a big stab in the gut. Sometimes, some of us are happy we come here. We're like, yo, I'm happy I'm here. I get to live the American dream, just for us to get slapped around the face with real life, because out here things are different. And then once you get through that process, it's not until later on, like 5, 10, 15, maybe even 20 years later, that you realize, like, oh my God, like I really went through this. Like I came here, you know, I took the hits. I never fell down. I never gave up. I'm here because God knows, we know a lot of us that come out here, they, get lost into the parties, the drugs, the women and whatever. And then they end up in the prison system and all that stuff, or get deported and everything. And people like us, we come out here, we make it work. We go through it. Boom. There we are now. Like, doing things that some of us didn't even like imagine at that point, because those things didn't really exist. You know what I mean? So to see that you were able to make that what it is now, that's admirable, man, and that's really motivational for me. Even like to hear that, I'm like, yo, you know what? That gives me hope. That gives me hope.
Appreciate it.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm glad to hear the stories. So now we talk about the moving, we talk about the education, we talk about the career now, right? Um, what are you doing? So what was life like at home, in terms of like with your family and with your parents and everything? So as a kid, even getting to this point now, what's life like? Are they always like making sure Jean Hermy is the central focus? Like they listen, they talk to you, they give you advice. Even now, like do they reach out like, hey, are you okay? Like, is everything okay? Like, here's what you need to do. Like, what's life like in general?
Like back home, before I moved out was really, really good. We've always had a solid relationship, and I think God is the main reason why. Because my parents are very religious, so we've
Mm-hmm.
always had a very good family dynamic, even back home in Haiti. So
Mm-hmm.
essentially, when we moved here, everyone was good, and obviously, since it was a major shift for everyone in life. So we just made sure we all did our parts, right? So everyone knew, okay, you have to work, and then we just split everything evenly. But most importantly, we respected each other. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think as soon as we moved here, the whole like mom, dad, like trying to boss you around dynamic all changed. I think we became more of a team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that worked out, in our favor. And even to this day, worst comes to worst, I know I always have, people to go back to. Let's say I were to lose everything right now, I know I could always go back to my dad, and it'd be it'd be judgment free. Like, and he would basically like help me out with whatever I need. And funny enough, I still ask my dad for business advice to this day. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, like a lot of like like some very complex business advice that I would need. As long as it doesn't involve like this day and age technology, I just go straight for my dad because
Mm-hmm.
even though he was operating in Haiti, but all the rules for businesses are very standard throughout like time, space, and everything. But yeah,
Okay.
overall, I would say like we've had a really really good that we still have to this day a really good dynamic. They always check on me to make sure I'm good, to make sure the goals are being set, and also keeping me accountable as well.
Okay. And so if you had to pick one or two things on basically, your family dynamic right now, let's say one thing that you would take and one thing that you would not take into your own family and your own, legacy, what would those things be?
I think one thing I would for sure take is just always keeping the family together no matter what. My parents are very, very, very big on that. So, no matter what, your family, your team, you stick together. You can't, no matter what's going on, resolve it, right? There are
Mm-hmm.
much bigger things than, you letting your ego in the way and you're mad at your sister because she stole the last chicken wing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So things like that. One thing I probably wouldn't take is I think it would mostly come from kind of like my mom, like a little bit too much sheltering in the sense of there comes a time where you have to let the kid make their mistakes, obviously controlled and very
Mm-hmm.
safe mistakes. Like my mom, ever since moving here, she's been very, very like conservative. She's because having to move from Haiti to here, she
Mm-hmm.
always thinks like things could always fall apart, right? So I think I would always keep how could I put that into words? Essentially, I would make sure that whatever my kids want to try, be probably a little bit more supportive of them, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that stems from maybe me still kind of like butthurt as a kid, as I was pretty good or decent at soccer, but I never really got like the push I felt like I needed growing up. It was
Mm-hmm.
always like, we just got to work as long as you eat, blah, blah, blah. I feel like into my family dynamic, um, if someone feels like they want to be a professional athlete, if I think you're good enough, I'm going to back you up, right? You
Yeah.
want to be like whatever you want to be, as long as like it's reasonable, I would back you up. Back home, no one's going to pay for you to go do travel soccer and stuff like that. It's like, you got something like kind of type stuff.
Yeah. 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 I've had so many memories is coming back on that, and I can relate to that in so many different ways. In fact, I had that conversation recently, and I'm like, I wish my parents allowed me to do kind of like certain activities, because I look at now how motivated and how driven I am in terms of like learning new things. And I think, and even with soccer too, like I was always playing around, like kicking something, whether it's like a little bottle of water or whether it's a little ball of like aluminum foil. I was always kicking something around. Like it was always all about soccer, tennis balls the whole time in the house daily. And now I look back and I'm like, if only these these people saw that, hey, this kid likes to learn new things. He likes to, apply himself and everything. It's like, Lord knows where I would have been at this point, but it's the circumstances too, because, I live where we live versus like where some of these things were located. It was like somebody would have had to make the time every weekend or every day to drive to these places and then come back, and then things will get started to get a little bad, and sometimes these things are ending at 10-11 p.m. Ain't no way my parents was gonna let me do any of those. There was no way. Mm-mm. There was no way.
Yeah.
Nobody was gonna be coming home at 11:30 at night, even though it's summer or whatever the case is. Like, nah, there's no such thing. So yeah. What motivates you, man? Because you seem to be level-headed. You seem to be really, secure and passionate within yourself. You seem to really know exactly what you want and exactly what you're going after. I can tell you definitely went through some stuff, but it doesn't seem to even phase you in any way. So what motivates you?
Honestly, retiring my parents and making sure they never have to work again. Right now I'm in a position where I could retire them right away, but they kind of like decline it, especially my dad,
Mm-hmm.
because he's of that mentality that you could save some more. We're good for now. When we absolutely can't, we will, we'll let you know. But for now, just save and invest, which is kind of like, a good idea from them. But essentially, it's kind of like putting them in a place where, like, if they work, they're just working for fun.
Mm-hmm.
They moved here at 50. There's not enough work that you could do that is going to give you enough for retirement. So I always felt like I was on the clock to get stuff done, and I needed to work 10 times faster than most people. So that actually pushed me a little bit more to figure out ways to make more in less time,
Mm-hmm.
and to not really go, the traditional route and kind of like push my limits. So essentially, it's just my parents. I think them moving here at 50 and just dropping everything behind just to be like, yo, I think, you know, I want to bet on the kids, and I think, they have a much better shot at life. They didn't have to move to the US or even move with all of us, right? Essentially,
Mm-hmm.
because you've seen so many parents move, leave their kids, help their kids back home, and eventually move them here.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back at it, it's a major sacrifice. Moving to a new country with 4 kids and a wife, still this day blows my mind. Starting from
Mm-hmm.
scratch, right? And it's just like putting your faith in God that you will just figure it out, right? So essentially, me not wanting to make them feel like they made a mistake, I think is my biggest source of motivation.
Okay. And, moving with your family, kids and your wife or your husband, if it, because it's sometimes it's the women is get the opportunity and then they're moving with their husband and their kids and everything. It's the best case scenario. That's the best case scenario. It's the ones that have to move on their own and then down the line get their wives, their wife, not wives, get their wife, get their kids, bring them
Yeah,
here, and prep and get ready for them. I feel like that's the worst case scenario in a sense. But fortunately for a lot of them, it always end up working out. And that's why, like, Haitian people or even Caribbeans in general at this point is like, we're such special people, man. Like, we don't get enough credit for that, honestly, because the type of sacrifices we would make for our family is unmatched, unlike any others. Especially coming in America. You know what I mean? So that's tough, man. It's
that's
tough
true.
seeing,
It's very
because
true.
when I came here with my older sister, just the two of us. My mom, my dad, still live in Haiti actually, and my younger sister ended up coming here, and that's the sacrifice that they had to make. And just like you, I had that weight on my shoulder the moment I walked in here, and it was like, I can't make this a mistake. This has to work. I need to, represent. I need to be the man in the house. I need to be able to retire them or support them at any given moment. Because if they decide they're not going to work anymore, or they can't work anymore, I need to be able to do it. You know.
Yep.
So, all right. So let's talk about some major wins, major losses within your career, and even we could keep it just as with the drop shipping, or feel free to kind of go around that, and with everything else that you've done from the time you came here to now. We'll start with the wins first.
Okay. So, as in the wins, I think, especially if we look at like last year, I think, I've put myself in a very, very good position in life to even, keep doing more of what's already working. But mostly, one of my biggest wins is actually just realizing that, I was full of myself back then and thinking I knew more than I actually did. And, learn, like actually knowing now I need to constantly keep learning to survive in this day and age, right? Before, I thought I would find out something, make it work, and then just get comfortable. Like because you could talk about wins and like a monetary value, if it's that, then definitely had my best year last year. But essentially, if we're talking about like just real wins, the real wins came from understanding that in this day and age, you just got to keep going. Right? Got to keep going. You got to keep learning too. Never think you're too good to learn from anyone, and always investing in yourself. I've invested a lot, especially last year, going to conferences, buying courses, doing all that stuff, like a lot of like self-development. So, getting my mental right, and also getting my, like my mental and physical health in check. And I think that's the best, one of the best ones I've had so far.
Yeah, it's the most the best thing we can do for ourselves, like for making sure your mental, your physical health is okay, is unmatched. Like it's underrated even, and we talked about like what motivates you too, is like, that's the only way you could really make sure you're keeping yourself in check so you can continue to go. Because one thing about this life, especially in these last recent years, one thing we've been learning is this life is not promised. That at any moment, a heart attack, get shot, get killed, COVID, all this thing, done. That's it.
It is pretty crazy. It's like
it's crazy out here, man. Like it's like, wait, what? Little bro was like 24 years old. What do you mean he had a heart attack?
Bro, I've never seen in the last, like at least the last 4 or 5 years, I've never seen us in a state of like tranquility, of calm or serenity, like nothing. It's always something, right? It's one thing after the other that's just always keeping us preoccupied or stressed. So really finding a way to disconnect, from that has been, major for my business, right? Because a lot of times, even like during like the Black Lives Matter movement and everything, it was something like if you actually were not able to disconnect a little bit to kind of like do whatever you had to do throughout the day, you'd be so immersed. It's everything. Every time I would open my phone, I'd get into like a state of like sadness, anger, just seeing what was actually happening. It took a lot to be able to sometimes just disconnect from everything, like a quick social media cleanse, just to kind of like get your head right. And I think that's kind of like what also helped with business. I've had one of my best years in business. Scaled one of my businesses 5x what it did the year before. So it was pretty good so far.
Okay, so now you said you talked about businesses. So how many things you got going on now? How many businesses you have going on now?
So essentially, I would say really two businesses. So I have the ecom where I have the main brand. It's a seven-figure brand, on pace to be an eight-figure brand this year. That brand is really my the main focus, and I also have an education company where I also help people, especially in the Haitian community, do the same thing as me. This actually came from an idea, a really good friend of mine that also does e-com, and he's also the one of the owners of Calibu. I don't know if you know about Calibu.
Mm-mm.
And and it's a Haitian coffee. Uh, and they also sell like chocolate, body scrubs, and everything. It's like
Okay. Okay.
sourced from Haiti and everything. So yeah, so he came with the idea. It's like, how could we potentially make an impact in the community and all that stuff? Because before, I just wanted to just make my money and then just kind of like stay in the shadows. No one would
Yeah.
have known me, nothing, right? But eventually shared the idea with me, and it's been great, and we're very proud of it because as a whole, we've introduced the digital marketing world to Haiti, and it's something that we're very proud of.
Mm-hmm.
Despite talking to people about e-com and everything, we actually introduced like making money online to
Mm-hmm.
Haiti, like at a larger scale, because we've reached a lot more than anyone else in the in the space.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been good to now see kids in Haiti learning how to, edit videos with like, with the, the new fancy style of editing that's, that makes the video go viral.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we have a lot of kids that do that and sell it as a service right from Haiti, making 1,000 a month, etc. Right,
Yeah.
which is crazy. Like
It's
not
a
even
lot of that's
teachers
a
be
lot of
making
money.
that.
That's a lot of
Yeah,
money.
so
Yeah, I have a friend that was just telling me that there's like a group of kids that he knows that just be, doing these like video editing and they come out crazy too. Like,
oh yeah.
uh,
And we've showed them. I'm like, anything like, because Haiti, it's very the economic state of that country is not the best, so it's very hard to find actual jobs. So you're better off like finding like learning a skill
mhm,
that is that you can work anywhere you are. So a lot of these kids are learning stuff like video editing, graphic designs. They're learning how to build websites and all that stuff, and they sell it as a service. Because if you think about Fiverr, Upwork, there's a
mhm.
lot of stuff. There's a lot of people from India, the
Yeah,
Philippines, and
yeah,
everything that just sell those as a
Pakistan.
service. Yeah.
Hmm.
So to us, we're like, why don't we introduce that to our country? And then when it comes down to the the payment part of it, they'll figure it out. If you can, even if it's transfer, whatever you got to do, you will get paid. Just learn the skill.
Hmm.
So it's one thing that I think that we could technically put that as one of the wins, just kind of like, opening the eyes back home and making the kids understand that you don't need the godfather or godmother to find a job, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
You can find jobs, you can make money, support your family.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I respect with Johnson Napoleon as well, because he does practically the same thing. He's always kind of like posting stuff about, letting people know, hey, if you take pictures, here's how you can monetize your pictures even from Haiti. If you do this, here's how you can monetize it even from Haiti. If you have somebody here, just let them know and have them set it up for you. And he be breaking it down for them. And I respect that, about him a lot. Like every time I go in there, he's telling somebody how to monetize something. And if
Yes,
you're
I
doing,
think I've
if you,
seen some of his videos too. Like
hmm,
he has some really good content.
yeah, yeah. And so now let's talk about some of the losses or lessons, as we sometimes call it out here on the podcast. We try not to look at it too much as like just a loss where it's like it's gone. We look at it also as like a lesson because we can always find something to learn in our downfall or in our losses. So yeah, if you can remember some of the stuff and break it down for us.
I would say one of the major lessons I've learned was essentially what turned into a win was to always, to always keep learning. So essentially, after my major breakthrough in business, I got very complacent. At the
Hmm.
time, making the type of money I was making was just kind of like unheard of, and I just got very complacent. And even when things were just kind of like going down, I didn't care because I had so much money saved up,
Hmm.
right? But then eventually it just hit me in my face where like, when I thought I could eventually figure things out, it never did. That were like, I almost like essentially like lost everything. Right. But the
Hmm.
good part about me, going from, at the time, my business was making about 1 million a year. Right. But
Hmm.
the reality is it would be like just a few quick months where that close to that million would be made. and the other months will just be like stagnant or just like really, really bad. Why? Because I made so much money in a short period of time, and I was just got complacent. I'm like, and at the time, so what are you gonna tell a kid making that much money I've never seen in his life? Like, and I started like partying, like, going out, blowing my money, buying stupid stuff. You just the average, and things like that. It's kind of embarrassing to say, but I was basically like blowing my money. But eventually, when I snapped out of it, thank God, that's when things started working. And I also, look back at, the past, right? Because you can learn a lot from the past to make sure it never happens again in the future. I was like, every time it hits February or March, the same thing happens. You get very complacent and, you just take your foot off the pedal, which was the switch from last year. Last year was a constant grind. I didn't take a single vacation up until like the end of the year, but it was not even a vacation because I met up with another one of my buddies that did ecom, and all we really talked was business, right? So it was essentially like not getting your foot off the gas. It's like if something is working, that saying in Creole that says "bat my yapa dan shoa." It's like that was essentially what I was doing like last year. Like I didn't take my foot off the pedal once, and I was just grinding, 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 because I figured out that life, is a result of inputs and outputs. In the last 2 years, the outputs I was getting towards the end of the year were a direct result of, or I had a direct correlation of the inputs I was putting in. I was getting mad because I felt like I plateaued, but I realistically was not even putting any extra work than I was the years before. So kind of like understanding that was what allowed me to bounce back and eventually hit 5 million last year. So that's essentially like where my head is at. It's just like learning from that and making sure that it never happens again. But, long story short, like one of the major loss or lesson was almost hitting rock bottom from getting too comfortable.
Yeah.
And it can happen fast, very fast.
Yeah, it's a long climb to the top, but the fall, it happens a lot faster. That's why most people, that's why it takes so long to reach success, and in an instant you lose it all. Like there's no, it waits. It doesn't wait for you. Just downhill.
One of the worst things about stuff like that too, when you actually think about it, is also the mental part of it. From feeling like, oh, you were at the top and you're near rock bottom now. It's not so much about like you're starting from ground zero. Yes, you're starting from experience, but the mental hit you're going to take from, having to downgrade a bit and doing all that stuff, it's there. You're going to look at the mirror to be like, oh, I really fucked that up. So things like that will really like just play in your head. And, once you figure it out, to make sure you never go back to that. But other than that, there's still good lessons, right? I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world. I think if I didn't learn from that, it probably would have been much worse if, let's say, I got to the level I am, like, for this year, and then something like that happens. It probably would have been a lot worse.
I'm glad you brought up the mental stamina that you need when you're doing these things, because that's one of the things that I like to highlight. And that's why I ask the questions, about the family, like the household and that growing up and everything, just to really see like just to kind of get an idea of what you've had to deal with and how you manage. Because to me, one of the things that I realized is like, there's a lot of fluff online. There's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of, come here, I'll teach you how to do this. And then, it's easy. Like, I don't know why you haven't done this. It's like, then after a while, you start to feel bad that you didn't know this information, right? You start to feel embarrassed because how is it that I didn't know this? How is it that Jean is making 5 million a year in his business and then I'm not making that? You know what I mean? It's like, all Jean did, like he went to school or he learned this, he's like, we start to feel that way. And then you start doing the business. So this is the tricky part. You start doing it. You start to learn. You go in, it could be you teaching teaching me the same thing, and I'm like, all right, cool, I start doing it. And in that first instance where things are not hitting the way they're supposed to, oh, it's done. That mental just goes straight down the hill right there, because now you feel embarrassed because you didn't know in the first place, and then now that you know and you failed or failing, you feel even worse because now it's like, oh damn, I guess there's a reason why I didn't know this, because I'm dumb or I'm stupid, like I just can't do this, I'm just an idiot. And you start to feel all kinds of things, and that's what a lot of us are going through, like in silence. And that's why a lot of us even give up on our businesses and dreams, because that mental, it's something.
It's no joke, man. And I think that's what separates people, making it in business. That's not 100% true, but I would say this is at least 85% of the reason. It's really like the persistence part of it. Like, it's like, how far can you keep going? How many hits can you still take?
Yeah.
Right? And essentially too, and what helps me with business, and I always tell that, to friends, to students, and all that. I'm like, it's a game of inputs and outputs, right? You clearly know the business works, right? But it's not working for you. Doesn't mean it doesn't work. You may have to be a little bit more patient, right? Someone's seeing my business that did 5 million last year. I started in 2019. We're in 2024, right? So you can't compare your day one to my day 3,000. It's so unfair to you, and it is unfair to me as well, right? I went through, a lot, and I've learned a lot as well. Essentially, my job now is to make sure you don't make the same mistakes as me, but you still gotta put in the inputs I put. Right? It's not. There's no real shortcut, to businesses and stuff. So it's like, it's inputs, and majority of the time you'll notice a pattern too. It's like, for example, someone starting out ecom, and they say ecom doesn't work, but you look at the website, you look at the type of marketing they're doing, you're like, bro, this is actually like garbage. But you don't know what you're doing yet. That is why your inputs are not good enough to give you the outputs you want. So guess what? You just have to work harder. Right. And this is literally what life is. It's like inputs and outputs. You work, it doesn't work out, but you get better, right? You keep work. Doesn't work out, still you get a little bit better. Work, still the same thing. And in that last work, boom, it seems like it's an overnight success. It seems like it's an overnight success, but it was literally a continuation. It was the compounding effect of all the inputs that you put. Me, like, being able to like look at a product like this, right? Or for example, the stand right here. I can look at something like this, the stand right here, and make a multi-million-dollar business with it. Why? Because I understand a lot more. But all of those came from experience all throughout the years. And I think that is essentially what every new business owner needs to know. It's like, you're going to go in, you're not going to make money right away because you don't know what you're doing yet. Take the time, learn, make the mistakes, and eventually it's going to hit. It's going to hit. Why? Because your competition is not as fierce as you think, and majority of the people give up. So all you have to do is keep going, to just keep taking that spot. Okay, this guy left, I'm taking his spot. That guy left, I'm taking his spot. Right? So that's kind of like how my mindset is with business. But it all comes with hanging out with people just operating at different levels, man. I see guys doing 30 mil a year, guys doing 10 mil a year, guys doing 15. You talk to these guys, they don't even sound human at times. Like the way their brains operate, the way they see stuff. It's pretty interesting.
It is indeed. It is. Because even me listening to how you're breaking it down too, I'm just like, this guy's interesting. Like, I definitely have to connect after this, and just gotta, stay in contact and work on some of these things. And
Absolutely.
So to this point now, right? I'm sure you know and have seen, or maybe even have some, extended family members or friends that have been coming in the country through this new humanitarian program. What's your take on that? With someone, or what would you say to these people now that are coming in the country, and with this new opportunity, because it's different from how you and I came in. it's, some of them are coming in with, a silver spoon basically being handed to them, right? In a sense,
Yep.
right? Because you're getting your social, right away, right? You're getting food stamps, you're getting even money, you're getting things created, and you're getting someone that's saying, hey, come here, I'm going to sponsor you and I'm going to make sure you're good, and give you that extra push. So what's something that you would tell these people that are coming in? Obviously, I think we could even do that in Creole if you want to, because I know a lot of them don't have that English yet to really understand, like, what we're saying. So it doesn't matter. But
yeah, so I mean, I could quickly say in Creole, conseil mwen te ka bay tout moun ki vini ici nan Biden, c'est essentiellement bay priorité nan apprendre langue anglais. Suspend parler créole. Sou ka fait, il faut pour pas parler créole pour at least un bon un an 2 ans parler, les nécessaire, right? Apprendre langue, apprendre parler, apprendre écrire. Pour qui ça? Parce que vous ouvrir un paquet porte pour. Et puis après ça, deuxièmement, vous fait travail. Pourquoi même al craser qu'on a gardé business en rien? Cherche un job. Cherche un bon job qui a commencé à payer bill. Et ça va faire troisième, ou va save un paquet quoi. Like, ou va save max, like, quantité qu'on peut save là, save li. Parle nan la que qu'on a acheté bel rad, bel tennis, ça c'est important comme y a là. L'autre année a venu a un nouveau style ou bien t'en envie, right? Save. Plutôt pas comme si pas comme ou actuellement comme parce que like wap ka vivre plus bien. Après ça, là ou vinn go bon petit cop qui save, comme y a là ou ka wap toujours dans travail ouais, comme y a là ou ka commencer à apprendre on nouveau connaissance, right? On nouveau compétence. Et essentiellement, ça m'a parlé avant là, son bagage qui t'a fait dans un intervalle de 1 an, 2 ans, right? Ou commencer travail peut-être, ou je non travail, en côté cassé $500 par semaine, cap $2,000 par mois. Dans fin année, ou si t'as supposé gagner $24,000, right? Et puis après ça, pour la prochaine année, combien là, ou toujours travailler pour save, pour combien là, on va commencer à investir dans tête pour apprendre une nouvelle compétence. Et préférément, compétence ça, c'est des cas digital, il t'a plus bon pour parce que libéral vient bon deux bagages, libéral bon liberté temps avec liberté l'argent combien là. Parce que ou pas vraiment obligé à chercher travail comme si dans géographie ou quand je travaille ou bien vendre service ou bien vendre produit là tout côté. Vle en pile nous comprendre que monde là pour digital, en pile nan job qui gagne combien là, il a remplacé avec robot. Combien là ou non Whole Foods, Whole Foods combien là ou quand même payer avec Clamon. Sous pas comme ça. Ou fin scan tout bas ou payer avec Clamon. Ça va avec un monde cap chita, cap fait ça. So essentiellement, c'est conseil ça me décaba non c'est vini, make sure nous apprendre langue là. Switch tout bagay nous en anglais, right? Retire si nous même on follow toute vieille page cap bay zin, bay ça pas important.
Ouf.
Mais même sur Instagram, like vieille plateforme où cap bay zin comme si toute la journée son bagay négatif. Déjà celle bagay qui a le viral. Yes, celle bagay qui a le viral, c'est bagay qui négatif. Right? La plupart du temps, on poste où elle viral gon bagay négatif. Mais même pas j'aime chita attendez à bail ça c'est pas bon bagage pour consommer pas oublier tête ou son vaisseau lié right ou ka bourrer là avec bon bagage ou ka mettre tête ou son plat lié ou ka mettre bon manger là-dedans ou ka mettre mauvais manger right imaginez 30 minutes ou fait ou regarder sur internet là tu fais 30 minutes ça ou apprendre comment pour éditer ton website 30 minutes ça comment pour écrire comment pour faire copywriting 30 minutes comment pour faire vidéo editing et m'a ba non secret en plus tout. Puis, il faut compétence que pour nous apprendre, il va prendre un paquet de temps pour lui prendre, non? Normalement, 120 heures de temps, assez pour presque un expert dans le domaine. Pour que ça me dise 120 heures de temps, assez pour presque un expert dans le domaine, là, on va penser college, right? L'autre qu'on a dans le collège, ou bien à l'école, réalistiquement, puis il faut, il tape mon tour. C'est après 1 heure de temps, 2 heures de temps, t'es qu'on y est. Dans le collège, je crois que c'est 1 heure de temps, 2 fois par semaine. So, là, mettez ça, c'est à peine 8 heures de temps par mois, le non intervalle de 4 mois, oui. So, c'est vraiment 32 heures de temps pour apprendre en compétences, oui. Dans le collège, oui, comme si pour apprendre en matière. So, si vous mettez comme si temps libre pour apprendre et pour mettre 100 heures de temps pratique là-dedans, 100 heures de temps de pratique, on va venir expert là-dedans. Obviously, nous, tout là, nous pas gagné 24, 48, 72 heures de temps, you nail l'autre pour nous bail. But si vous avez retiré une aide ton tabac sur TikTok là, ou bailler nos compétences, pour mettre dans 6 mois, ou pas dans la même situation.
Et puis pour m'ajouter sur ça tout, et gen yon se de bagay ko di la, gen moun, of course, depi an lè, wè chèche yon excuse, yon wè di yo pa gen tan, yon wè se la. Gen pile nan moun yo kap vini la, na fè au minimum 1 mois, 2 mois, même 3 mois, même des fois, avant nous essayer ka jwenn travail, ou bien avant nous essayer jwenn social pour nous al travail. Donc, metan ki disponible yo.
Et si mwen ka mwen ajoute sou sa, bagay tan sa mba pren lan men moun anko. Gen kek ka ki diferent. Sel fason map d'akor pou mbo excuse tan, mvle wè screen time. Pi ga screen time sur Instagram, Facebook et TikTok.
Ouf.
Pi ga screen time sur Instagram. E mbap bon manti, mwen le map gat screen time sur TikTok. Mwen sa mjou la. E pa travay se scroll, map gat bel ti content. But sa se realite ya. Nou gon fason, wap ka jen on 30 minutes pou ba an bagay sou vreman vle. Wap ka bay li.
Et surtout qu'on y a tout bagay qu'on a gon chance gon moyen qu'on ka monétiser.
Oh yeah.
Et gen nan moun yo ki vini, bon, même là c'est TikTok là lié vraiment vrai. Sur TikTok là cherche un bagay quand même qui est important qui ka bon comme. J'en dis retire nan pile. Qu'on y a mon sec de TikTok vrai tourner capter des pop-up sur page moi bah c'est net.
Bon depuis moi bah ça me click not interested. Mwen vreman pare men pou tet mwen non negative mental state. Like, I hate that. Like, first of all, mpare men ap gade ze. Well, la plupart du temps, pa men kon si baga la. Vre, s'il faut. En se a, on moun takou men mou, la, y a pale sou. Think about how that person feels too. Just pou power moun ap just do yo kon sa. Me, I just scroll. Bye, sa, atasyon.
That's the one thing I would tell moun Biden. You say, you ne ba mkadi moun Biden you. Ou vini sit la, takou so diyan, retire, unfollow page haïtien, retire konon ba haïtien, en gen moun ki pren sa pou mouve bagay, non, not at all. Sou bezon avanse vre, même page moun ou konen ki pale kreol selman, ou bien ki poste bagay kreol selman, ou pa souze suiv. Ton so diyan, tout bagay, telefon ou, computer ou, et page Instagram ou, quel que soit email ou, mette tout en anglais.
Peut-être ou en confort, faut pas confortable même parce que puis mon bagay wap vin wè kap réaliser dans la vie c'est dans situation quand on pas confortable parce que réalistiquement même l'aime vini ici chance pour moi m'ta jouer football so dans jouer football m'te pas mis un paquet en dominicain, hondurien, colombien, brésilien avec américain so à peine on deux nèg qui dans team t'es parler créole so essentiellement m'te forcé à parler travail mal joindre. Si on travaille télécommunication, dès qu'on a pris pour faire donation, pour demander donation pour Hillary Clinton. Après ça, mal travaille dans le job restaurant. Tout différent bail ça force pour me parler.
Force pour parler.
Accent par accent, vin mettre tête moi non, vin remind tête moi ou bien vin wire tête moi pour mettre pour vin wire tête moi dans un espace côté me just dit tête moi hey, m'a parler pour me communiquer, bah vin parler pour me sound. Pour mon aimer ça m'a dit pour comprendre ça m'a dit là ça a fini et ou vinn ouais c'est plus Timon qui qu'on a fait bah ça yo kids are so evil man kids are so evil but loving comme si ou vinn pillage ou travail et puis comme là observer avec mon yo tout le monde a problème pas si ou vinn pour un drink dans restaurant là c'est pas un drink pas manger aller là comme si tu vinn pour vinn faire conversation avant so pas de faire but pour mon Biden yo si n'a regarder là vraiment important pour nous vraiment apprendre langue là. Puis plus ou plus apprendre langue là, la plus facile pour négocier. Puis bien, n'importe sauver là. Et pour m'ba dans contexte, parce que yes, moi parler de business, tout différents bagages au cabinet, ou pas forcément besoin à faire business ça. Business techniquement pas pour tout le monde, pas même encourager tout le monde faire. Ou qu'à essayer pour essayer c'est pour vous, but yes, tellement de différentes façons pour faire cob online comme il y a sur social media, tellement de façons pour monétiser n'importe petite connaissance ou gagner. Quand pile là nous là cap venir nous qu'on fait manger pas ce qui ça. Commencer poster petit cooking vidéos online et puis eventually like un petit cookbook cap vendre pour tête right? Like tellement de façons pour nous venir nous tomber dans terre opportunité. Quand ou ka mess up fuck up 100 000 fois ou ka lever 101 000 fois. Like that c'est littéralement non terre comme ça. Nous venons tomber, puis gardons prendre ça avec à la légère.
Yeah, moi, il y a un bagage plus super pour un pile monde qui vini et m'pa vle comme si ki gen sey de moun ki vini ici ki wè jan yo vini ici facile parce que littéralement gon sey de moun al dormi nan jodi il pat konnen si nan demain se tap gen opportunité ça. Moun konnen année ça il pat même konnen slap vive dans pays d'Haïti même. Il pat même konnen slap dans janvier, il pat même konnen slap fait mois de décembre nan même pendant Haïti. Et puis, quand ça m'a levé, le regarder, bon, si mon était dormi dans l'avion, parce que le modèle de excité, mon ça excité, ça m'a pas dormi dans l'avion. Là, mon vini pour nous regarder pour la respirer en l'air. Si c'est Florida, il a respirer en l'air chaud. Si c'est ici, il a respirer en l'air fret. Là, mon réalisé, dit, mes amis, c'est comme ça, là, moi, ici, hein? Et puis là, mon a gardé le conseil de bras et puis qu'on y a des gens qui peuvent penser dans la tête et pays ça mon a plein de liens et pays ça mon a obsessé mon a vu tellement bagaille facile pour Jean venir comparé avec Haïti conseil de mon moins peur que y a venir ici y a perdu opportunité ou bien pas prendre opportunité ça au sérieux parce que il fait trop facile parce que là on a parlé à des gens qui viennent ici avec madame, avec petite, ou bien moun qui viennent ici pour compte yo, et puis yo quitte madame yo avec petite yo à Haïti, les différents. Parce que là, vini, you understand that hard work. Faut prendre ça au sérieux parce que it's just you, right? Moun Haïti, pas gen l'autre moun, c'est ou même. Comparativement avec l'autre vini ici, travail ou getan pare pour ou, social ou getan pare pour ou, moun getan pare pour yo aider ou pour yo ceci, c'est là, débat différent.
But regardless, je pense que c'est une vraiment belle opportunité liée pour Opinlayo, spécialement pour grand monde, yo pas vraiment peur pour monde qui piage yo, plus peur pour jeunes yo. Les nèg yo vidi ba yon nèg on a dans rap vidéo, nèg a make Gucci ba ça. Quand nèg yo pas manger pour aller acheter Gucci. Right, so essentiellement si nèg yo ka des messages là, littéralement on va créer les delayed gratification en anglais. Like tout ça besoin comme y a toujours get temps pour faire mettez tête en bonne position mettez femme en plus bonne position et puis comme y a là ou ka bay tête un cadeau comme y a là right tennis Gucci a ou font année ou travail dur OK ou ka bay tête ça comme cadeau pas l'acheter là avec premier paycheck right
chaque yeah.
Pour qui ça c'est l'autre temps comme cap pour Gucci nan puis on cap dit quête c'est frère ou les deux ont toujours fait qui ba pour mesdames yo mesdames yo pas citer des sous dans Zara ou bien c'est des sous Chine et ça c'est réalité ah so but yeah c'est make sure nous venir apprendre là nous save comme nous et puis comme y a là nous fin save comme nous comme y a là nous bonne situation save là comme si on réserve tout le monde supposé qu'on réserve n'importe bagay qui passe dans la vie ou son second urgence ou qu'à prendre en réserve là continue le travail et puis comme y a là ouais comment qu'à investir dans tête ou apprendre en différentes compétences en plus parce que juste travail jusqu'à la fin dépendamment de qui ça va l'apprendre des cas par une bonne solution right et m'pa vinn là comme dit mon parle travail pas faire job non parce que toujours dire ça m'a dit sous son monde ou son nurse soit fait comme nurse like des nurse connaît deux à faire belle comme so est arrivé là m'pa bagarre faut me dire plutôt prend comment relais ça NPO ou à l'ouvert practice ou film ça me dit là ou à ça là prendre un nouveau bagage net ouais but si t'as ou vinn pas vraiment gars quel degré bah ça à la prendre trade à la prendre mécanique n'importe ça besoin une compétence ou qu'a toujours apprendre cap toujours cerveau dehors.
D'accord, 100%. OK, et 2024 là, for 2024, what are you looking forward to doing in a year?
Business wise, potentially 5x business encore. And then deuxièmement, really fully retired parent yo, même si yo d'accord ou pas, I'm just like it is whatever. Like m'pa occuper non encore. Et puis I'd say troisièmement is it's a good question. Potentially just get closer with God, to be honest. Just seeing the world, the way the world is going, it's a very scary place. It's scary times right now. So that it would essentially be that, just doing better with the business, fully retiring the parents and, get closer with God. Not in any particular order, but those are really the main three priorities you know. And if I were to add a next one, is maybe the love life, fully figure that part out.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be really it.
Okay. Yeah, it's wild out here. The streets is crazy.
Dude, I thought.
The streets is crazy. And again, back to the Bidens, good luck out there if you guys are coming in and you still need to find you somebody, like good luck out there. And I know go pil nek ap dejo nan ba sa, and we're not gonna not gonna stay too.
Bayo terrible, dude.
Oh my god,
Ou
just
an
stay out, man.
relationship ou te konton sorti nan te rapo kwa ale fem.
Instant.
Crazy.
Yeah. Okay. And okay. Now let's change things up a little bit, and before we wrap up here, so I have these few questions that I've been asking my guests just to kind of change speed, just kind of ease things up a little bit before we wrap up. And it's about 4 questions, and you'll just have some options. You can pick and choose which best suits you or which resonate with you more. So the first one is, if you had one wish, just one wish, would you A, bring someone back, give yourself everything you've ever wanted, or solve one problem in the world? You have one wish. You can only pick one.
To be quite honest with you, it's going to sound very selfish, but I would just give myself everything I've ever wanted, because I think giving myself everything I've ever wanted would be able to help out one of those other two. Realistically, if someone's, dead, as much as you would wish to bring them back, it's still God's plan, right? We really can't really interfere with that.
Yeah.
And charity starts at home, man. It's like I can't really think about the world when I still have things at home that I need straightened out. That's why I always tell people charity starts at home. You help yourself, you help your family, you make sure your cup is full, then you fill other people's cups, right? If not, you're just gonna fill out everyone else, and then you have nothing left. So let's say one thing that I wanted was to be one of the good billionaires, for example. I probably would be able to change stuff around the world being a billionaire, rather than changing one thing that someone else could potentially undo later down in line. But that's how I feel about it. Probably give myself whatever I ever wanted.
No, I agree. And I think, it's funny enough, in the last couple of times I've asked a question, I haven't actually had a chance to even say which one I would pick. And I think I would pick the same exact one, because I think with having everything that I've ever wanted, it would enable me to actually help with solving a problem, if not a lot of problems in the world. And, like you said, you can't bring somebody back from the dead. And, we've all accepted that. And even though it's not just about bringing someone back from the dead, it could also be bringing someone back in your life, whether it's an old relationship, an old lover, an old, friend, or whatever the case is. Old location.
Probably the old lover.
Well, just to kind of, for context. But I think for me, I would say it's like I'm willing to. I've accepted that if you are no longer a part of my life, it was meant to be, and maybe down the line you will be. That's not up to me, right? That's up to the universe to decide. All right. So second one is, 10 years from now, what would you like to be known for?
10 years from now, I'd like to be known as one of the guys that impacted a lot of Haitians in a positive way. Whether it's been, mindset, financially, or whatever it is. And it's not just like the Haitian in the diaspora, it's like a lot of kids back home, with all the things we're doing in the digital world, we really hope, this, can bring a big change in Haiti, and essentially stimulate the economy. So essentially, like being known as one of the guys that, impacted the next generation of Haiti.
100%. All right. Number 3, you get to choose one person to mentor you in your business, or just in life in general, or even in relationships, all that kind of stuff. Who would that be, and why?
I would probably get someone to mentor me in business, and actually it would be Elon Musk, which is pretty crazy because a lot of people would not guess anyone wanting Elon Musk to, to mentor them. But this guy is a beast, bro. The
Mm-hmm.
way this guy operates and the way he talks, and seeing that this guy has everything that money could buy, right? Like this guy doesn't need anything else, but he's still pushing. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I would love to be mentored by a guy that is just pushing just off the straight willpower of wanting to be the guy that created this or created that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like he's so innovative, you know, like he basically obviously like I'm sure like he was not really the first one to come out with electric vehicle. I could be wrong about that, but essentially he changed like the world. Like this
Mm-hmm.
guy has, positively and may have negatively impacted the world as well. But it's like it's pretty crazy to see someone build something so big where he could literally just, head into the sunset. He's just like, I need more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is, that's the type of guy I would really want behind me because to him, it's much more than just the money.
100%. All
What
right, and the
about you? I'd
last
like to know your answer.
for that one,
Hmm.
um, probably have to be Jeff Bezos. I think
It's another
that'll
good
be,
one.
yeah. I think that just have to be him. Um, Only because he embodies all of that stuff we are just talking about. He's that guy.
He's a
So,
beast, bro.
mm-hmm.
Like he's a beast for making Amazon what it is today.
Exactly.
Like, and people don't understand that Amazon was a bookstore, online bookstore. To make it what it is now, where Amazon could be whatever you want. He
Yep.
eventually owns like most of Whole Foods, for example. It's pretty crazy, pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
Indeed. Last question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you?
In life right now, I would say a solid 9. I am actually in a situation where I'm like very grateful for life, very grateful for family, relationships, and all that stuff. And I'm not gonna be one of those people that be like, oh, just because I'm not a billionaire yet, um, doesn't mean I can't be happy. I'm very healthy. Everyone who's around me is healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how much wealth you have up until you get sick. Just being able to wake up one day still being healthy, not having any problems, you know, like is all the riches, I think everyone should aspire to, accumulate for the most part. So I'd give it a solid 9, I'm very happy with where I am so far. Doesn't mean we're like I'm not still hungry for more, like I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to work as if I'm broke or whatever, but you know, I'm very happy, not content, but super happy with where I am so far in life. And I understand that, everyone's on their own journey, whether or not I may feel like I could have been further ahead if it hasn't been for those last 2 years. But I still, it's still my journey and I will embrace it and then, deal with the punches and move forward.
I love that. All right, and tell us how we can, reach out and connect with you, support you. Just all the information that we need in order to get in contact with you.
So to connect with me, you guys can follow me at my business page. It's called Hermy Biz 509.
Mm-hmm.
HermyBiz is 509. So you can connect on there with me, and yeah, truly appreciate the opportunities, Zach.
Okay, and you have a website, or just
Uh,
go on the Instagram and that's it.
just mostly go on the Instagram and that's it. I have a lot of like free content, free value on there that I
Mm-hmm.
post regularly, and that's really it. And I also have my personal page, and I could put it on there. It's TIYAYI _10
Mm-hmm.
TIDs. Yeah, so I'm on there. I usually just kind of like separate them because I have an influx of messages on the business one. It gets crazy to handle at times, and when I want to
Mm-hmm.
disconnect, I just move over to my personal one.
All right, good to hear. Well, again, man, thank you for joining. And I hope I didn't take too much of your time and actually have to run out also. So thank you very much for stopping by and taking the time out of your busy day and blessing us with all this knowledge and all this gems You're truly an inspiration, and I'm glad I was able to connect with you.
Thank you, brother. Truly appreciate the opportunity. And since you're in Boston, we definitely should connect more. My boy that put like to actually connected us together. He actually lives in my building, so it's like we
Okay,
should
okay.
definitely do some soon. Connect. Appreciate
Oh
it,
yeah,
brother.
yeah, yeah, most definitely. Yeah, let's do that. All right, man.
Absolutely.
And again, this was another episode of Not Another Business Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Zachary, and I'll see you next time.